On the 22nd of June 1948, the Empire Windrush steamed up the Thames to the Tilbury Dock in London, where she disembarked some 500 hopeful settlers from Kingston, Jamaica. 492 was the official figure, but there were several stowaways as well. Many of them were ex-servicemen who served in England during the war. The new arrivals were the first wave in Britain's post-war drive to recruit labour from the Commonwealth to cover employment shortages in state-run services like the NHS and London Transport. These passengers settled in the area of Brixton, which is now a predominantly black area in Britain. From the 1950s into the 60s, there was a mass migration of workers from all over the English-speaking Caribbean, particularly Jamaica, who settled in Britain. They are widely viewed as having been a major contributing factor to the rebuilding of the post-war urban London economy. This group included a number of Seventh-day Adventists.
It's really a privilege for me to be involved in this anniversary celebration in this way. The Jamaican community, or the people of the Jamaican diaspora, have made a very positive contribution to the church in the past 50 years. There have been leaders in the church at various levels, whether you think of pathfinding, the youth department, the youth federation, the Jamaicans have been there, and also in the wider society. I think of the role that the Laymen's Forum played years ago in seeking to bring about a more equal society within the church. There were various individuals from Jamaica who took part in that. The first minister in this country was from Jamaica. Black minister was also from Jamaica. And then I think about the wider leadership, or the leadership of the South England Conference: Dr. Sylvan Reed, Cecil Perry, Don McFarlane, Pastor Humphrey Waters, and now myself. So there has been quite a number of Jamaicans who've made an impact, a very big impact, I would say, on the life of the church.
These were the days when citizens of Britain's former colonies had the right to come and go freely, and many, exercising their right, flowed into Britain from the Commonwealth nations of the Caribbean, India and Pakistan. But the migration ceased abruptly in 1962 when the British Parliament passed legislation restricting access. This relatively brief period of migration, only 12 years, would radically affect the racial makeup of the Adventist Church. Like immigrant groups elsewhere, the newcomers encountered prejudice in the larger society. But for the Adventists, among them the church provided a home, a refuge, and a sanctuary. The Holloway congregation in particular became an early place of worship for the strangers from the Caribbean. They in turn would invite others of their race who were not of their faith to this welcoming denomination. The Adventist Church in Britain grew fast, doubling in membership between 1950 and 1970.
When you came to England first, of course, it was different from now. When you look down the streets, there was just a few cars. There was not so many cars. There was less people around. And then, but for work, you could get up in the morning, go for work, trying to find work, looking for work, and you could get 2-3 jobs within the day. And now you could choose from those 3 jobs who paid you the best. And it was not like now. It was much better in those days and now as far as jobs concerned. Well, in the church, when we had a bit of a confusion in the church, you know, people have prayer meetings, people pray and talk. But in the end, God have answered the prayers. And people became, the black people was together then, and some of the white people still stayed, and some of them, they just go to other church. They didn't want to be told by any black person what to do.
It was, I think at the time when I came, it was half white and half black, because when the black people, it was fully white, the Brixton Church. Yes, the Brixton Church was fully white. But as soon as the black people begin to come in, they begin to move out. The white begin to move out. So when I came here, it was sort of half and half. Yeah. are probably a little bit more white than the black, or more black more than the white, something like that. Yeah, in the 60s.
The black people, they stood firm because this is the Adventist church. We are Christian people, and they stood firm and says, well, we're not going to have it. We are here, we are the majority, we must worship together. But apparently, some of the white people, not all of them, didn't like it. And because of that, some of them leave the church.
It had its ups and downs. I came first living in Battersea, and then I went to the gallery. I find the meeting with the indigenous wasn't too wonderful, but I realized that it's the host of the Lord. I worked my way through. I came to Brixton, that's the old church, and worshiped there, and find it much better. Unfortunately, we had a few of the, should I say, white folks, and the more the black arrive, the more they go, until eventually one remained. And he, you could say, stay up to the time of his death. I'm still here, praise the Lord.
I would say to those people, look, there is no prejudice in heaven. And if you were down here with a prejudice and you hate your own brother because of his color, I don't know where you're going. Because definitely you're not going to reach heaven. So they're wasting their time.
With the increase in the numbers of the black, predominantly Afro-Caribbean Adventists, tension rose in the church in Britain. The newcomers brought with them cultural differences that impacted worship. They were more exuberant and expressive, accustomed to punctuating sermons with amens and other verbal expressions, much less bound by the clock in starting and closing services. They wanted pastors who could lead them in worship in the mode that was right for them, and Adventist schools for their children, and they sought a voice in the administration of the church. A group of black laymen began to meet informally to discuss ways of remedying the situation. Known as the London Laymen's Forum, they eventually were a representation to the leaders of the church, but received no satisfaction. As the situation continued to deteriorate, General Conference President Robert Pearson and Vice President G. Ralph Thompson intervened personally. Many hours of debate and prayer led to the formulation of what became known as the Pearson Package. It directed the church to adopt integrated leadership as well as both union and conference levels, and to place calls for experienced top-draw black pastors who had leadership potential.
Well, I was around at that time. We had some very good, let me just say this quite clearly, we had some very good white ministers. Pastor Pedler was an excellent minister. There was another pastor whose name slips me now, but again, he was a very good pastor. Then we had Pastor McCleary. And during that time, there were very few black ministers, as you would know, and Brixton was a ferment for activity with regards to trying to get the conference to get black ministers over. And the Pearson Package was essentially trying to get ministers from the Caribbean who were very good at ministry there to come and be very good ministers here for black people from the Caribbean. So that was a Pearson Package, to get the best from the Caribbean to come here so that the members of the church here could feel comfortable with their own ministers. And that was essentially what the Pearson Package was all about, but also to get ministers of West Indian heritage in the conference office, in the union office. And again, it followed through that there were black leaders in the conference office that could attune themselves to what the membership was suffering within the British system.
You have cultural clashes. The way the West Indians worship or the Caribbean was different from the quiet reserve of the English culture and ethos. And the Caribbean people felt that many times their causes were not represented, and they had little sympathy. And therefore, agitation became evident. And through different negotiations between lay people and the administration at the time, that the only way forward was to have individuals, leaders, that come in and relate to the resident West Indians or the Caribbean people.
I personally only had the experience once at the gallery. They would say to you that your kind worship in Brixton. I tried to avoid that the first question you asked me, but it wasn't nice. I know some of my friends that go to other churches like Wimbledon and elsewhere, they would say to them, your kind worship at Brixton. I think that was hard because at the foot of the cross, it is level. And he said, of one blood he made all nations. And if we are getting there, we need to understand that here and live accordingly.
Thus, in 1979, several pastors from the Caribbean were called to serve in Britain. Among them were Dr. Silburn Reed, who was soon elected President of the South England Conference, Pastor Cecil R. Perry, and Pastor Don W. McFarlane. Eventually, Cecil Perry became President of the Union in 1991, and Don McFarlane President of the South England Conference. The President of the North England Conference was Pastor Egerton Francis. The three presidents, Union and Conference, were all Afro-Caribbeans.
I should say that I'm not a political person, and I wait on the Lord to lead. From college days, I did not press myself to go to college. I just found myself in college, and the Lord has led me through the various tiers of the church and through the various departments there in Jamaica and here. It was not through any effort of mine. I just believe that when the Lord called me, I said yes. Yes to serve Him in the various departments of this conference, that is the South England Conference, up to the senior level as the president for 6 years, and then afterwards as president of the Union for 15 years. I sought God's leadership, and I believe that the Lord has a role for me. And I'm always in life trying to fulfill that role, and the various roles that I have fulfilled or filled in my stay here in this country over 30 years and 50-odd years in ministry.
The Windrush experience has impacted upon the Seventh-day Adventists in the British Isles in important ways. It has fostered a new phase of church growth. It has created a multicultural church which is the envy of other denominations. It has brought new energy for the evangelism. It has raised the profile of the church nationally, and it has added institutions to the church.
When I came, it was a bit hard somehow in getting a job. A bit, not a lot, but nothing would have made me work on the Sabbath. Nothing would have made me work on the Sabbath. My husband even said to me, "Oh, you can do that because you got me to provide." And perhaps in a certain sense it might be true, you know, but I've never experienced it, so I don't know how it would have, but my faith was really firm and strong in the Lord.
At school, I would say it was, I think the Race Relation Act was 1979, so it was like a spillover effect in the 80s. So there was still a lot, I experienced a lot of racism. I didn't think, I mean, I had a lot of friends who were not black because of the area where I went to school in North London, which helps me now as I've gotten older. But at school, I had some very bad experiences with racism, but I'm glad that I went to a multicultural school because I've learnt about different races in the meantime. On the back of that, with the first question, I would say it was kind of a breather when I went to church and I had my friends who were like me to relate, when we related to the same things. However, mixing is good for it's very character building.
There were many struggles that Jamaicans had to face, but they survived and are still here today.
The motto of Jamaica is, out of many, one people.
Out of many, one people.
Out of many, one people going forward.
Out of many, one people. As I said, of one blood he made all nation, and in him I put my trust.
Eternal Father, bless our land. Guide us with thy mighty hand. Keep us free from evil powers. Be our light through countless hours. To our leaders, great defender, grant true wisdom from above. Justice, truth be ours forever. Jamaica, land we love. Jamaica, 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 land we love.